open road was Robert Redford's haven, where engines roared louder than fame and tires carved poetry into dust. His cars were not machines, but fragments of his soul, vintage relics that carry his rebellion, his sorrows, his fleeting joys. From Utah's canyons, where he raised Paul Newman's laughter, to the silver screen's rolling icons, each vehicle was a stanza in his life's epic. This journey traces Redford's automotive heart, where metal forged memory, and freedom burned eternal. 1906 for Porsche, 900 for GTS, on March 15, 1966. Robert Redford, a 29-year-old Broadway actor, purchased a 1964 Porsche 900 for GTS, serial number 9004065, for $25,000 equivalent to $500,000 in 2025 from Vasek Polak's Porsche dealership in Hermosa Beach, California, negotiating a $1,000 discount and financing $12,500 via Wells Fargo at 6% over 3 years. One of 108 built between February and April 1964 at Stuttgart's Zuffenhausen plant, Assembly Line 3. This 433-pound mid-engine marvel featured a hand-laid fiberglass body over a tubular steel chassis, 51/49 weight distribution, 171-inch length, and 94-inch wheelbase. Its 2-liter flat-four engine, with dual Weber 46i carburetors, 4-cam design, 9.8-to-1 compression, 80mm bore, 74mm stroke, and dual overhead cams, produced 180 horsepower at 7,200 RPM and 144 pounds-ft of torque at 6,500 RPM, hitting 0 to 60 miles per hour in 5.5 seconds, a quarter mile in 13.8 seconds at 100 miles per hour, top speed of 160 miles per hour, 0.85 lateral G, 120-foot braking distance from 60 miles per hour, and 18 mpg, the 5-speed ZF manual transmission, with an 80% lock limited slip differential, and adjustable coilover Coney shocks with 11-inch ventilated disc brakes gripped Utah's Provo Canyon, where Redford and Newman dueled in July 1967. Newman pranking Redford by hiding his keys in a canyon bush, delaying a race by an hour. Repainted Irish green to mirror his Sundance Ranch's meadows. Its 15-inch magnesium wheels were widened to 7 inches rear. In January 1970 for $500 by Precision Auto, enhancing cornering. After losing Scott to SIDS on November 10, 1959, Redford drove alone at dusk, the 904's roar easing grief. As he shared in a June 1980 memoir, "That car was my escape." A scream against silence, restored from May to November 1978 for $15. Zero by Precision Auto in Salt Lake City. With new Coney shocks, a sport exhaust, reupholstered leather seats, a rebuilt clutch, and new Michelin XWX tires. It faced carburetor leaks, fixed for $800 after flooding during a 1979 rain. Serviced every 3,000 miles with oil changes $50. Valve adjustments and brake fluid flushes $100. It was owned previously by a California racer. Sold to Redford via Pollock 19-8 Rolls-Royce Ascot dual cowl Sport Phaeton, Massachusetts plant. Assembly Line 2. This 5,500-pound Titan stretched 20 feet, with a 140-inch wheelbase, 50/50 its weight distribution, and 78-inch width. It's 7.7-liter inline six, with a single Stromberg updraft carburetor, 6.0-to-1 compression, 95mm bore, 120mm stroke, and side valve design. Delivered 100 horsepower at 2,600 RPM and 100 pounds-ft of torque at 1,800 RPM, hitting 0 to 60 in 20 seconds. A quarter mile in 22 seconds at 65 miles per hour, 75 miles per hour, 0.6 lateral G, 150-foot braking distance, and 8 mpg. It's 3-speed manual with a 4.3-to-1 rear axle ratio, and semi-elliptic leaf spring suspension with 14-inch drum brakes. Glided through Long Island's mansions, a gilded cage for Gatsby's longing. Restored from January to June 1973 for $10,000 by Long Island's Classic Coachworks. With a yellow repaint, green leather upholstery, 35-inch Firestone white wall tires, polished nickel fittings, and a rebuilt starter motor. It faced ignition issues, fixed for $600. Redford, in a July 15, 1974, said interview, called it a dream, heavy with tragedy. Crumbling under Daisy's ghost, recalling stalling it during a scene, requiring a tow costing $150. Service yearly for chassis lubrication $100 and carburetor tuning to $100. It needed a $1,000 to $100 carburetor rebuild in 1974 due to flooding. Previously owned by a New York banker, it was one of 4 surviving Ascots. Auctioned at Pebble Beach on August 20, 2022. For $967,500, its value tied to Redford's iconic Rolls-Royce's craftsmanship and its 1928 rarity. A jazz age icon rivaling Duesenberg's Model J. Redford, in a 1975 letter, noted its stately sorrow. Like Gatsby himself, .1969 Porsche 911 for downhill racer 1969. Redford's David Chapellet roared in a Bahama yellow Porsche 911. Serial number 119,120,345. Bought on April 10, 1968. For $6,000 from Denver's Prestige Porsche. Paid in cash from Broadway's Barefoot in the Park earnings after a $500 haggle. One of 28,716 911s built in 1969 at Stuttgart. Assembly line for this 2,000 to 100-pound coupe. With 50 to 48 weight distribution, 161-inch length, and 88-inch wheelbase. Featured a 2.0-liter flat 6 with Bosch mechanical fuel injection, 9.0 to 1 compression, 80mm bore, 66mm stroke, and dual overhead cams. Producing 130 horsepower at 6,100 RPM and 130 pounds-ft of torque at 4,000 to 100 RPM. Hitting 0 to 60 in 8 seconds, a quarter mile in 15.5 seconds at 88 miles per hour. 130 miles per hour, 0.8 to lateral G. 125-foot braking distance, and 20 mpg. It's 5-speed manual. Steel monocoque chassis, McPherson strut front suspension, torsion bar rear suspension, and 11-inch ventilated disc brakes with 15-inch Fuchs wheels tore through Colorado's snowy passes. Custom ski racks welded for $200 by Denver Auto, Redford. A skier since age 15, called it a black diamond run. Thrilling yet perilous, in a November 20, 1969 interview. Recalling Newman's prank of taping its wipers during a March 1969 snowstorm, fixed with a $20 knife. Modified in 1968 for $1,000 to $100 with a 70% lock limited slip differential, sport exhaust, and 6-inch wide tires. It was restored in 1969 for $2,000 over 3 months by Colorado Classics with new shocks, a clutch rebuild, and Pirelli Cinturato tires, facing a sticky throttle. Fixed for $300, serviced every 3,000 miles with oil changes $40 and valve adjustments $150. It was previously owned by a Denver lawyer, now valued at $53,550. An 8.9x appreciation, its air-cooled growl. A 1964 SCCA rally veteran echoed Redford's hunger for glory. A vibrant streak against the snowed 1955 Cadillac Eldorado convertible in Havana 1990. Redford's Jack Weil commanded a 1955 Cadillac Eldorado convertible. Serial number 556 to 137,890. Bought on March 12, 1989. For $4,300 from a Miami collector via New Line Cinema. Negotiated down from $5,000, one of 3,950 built at GM's Detroit Fleetwood plant. Assembly line 1, from January to June 1955. This 4,800-pound behemoth with 53/47 weight distribution, 223-inch length, and 126-inch wheelbase. Featured a 331 cubic inch V8 with dual Carter WCFB 4-barrel carburetors, 8.5 to 1 compression, 96mm bore, 90mm stroke, and overhead valves. Producing to 170 horsepower at 4,600 RPM and 330 pounds-ft of torque at 3,000 to 100 RPM. Hitting 0 to 60 in 9 seconds, a quarter mile in 16.5 seconds at 80 miles per hour. 115 miles per hour, 0.7 lateral G. 145-foot braking distance, and 12 mpg. It's 4-speed hydromatic. Live rear axle with semi-elliptic leaf springs, power steering, 12-volt system, and 11-inch drum brakes define luxury. Restored in 1989 for $5,000 over 5 months by Miami Classics. With a pink repaint code PPG Ditzler 70809, 15-inch white wall tires, chrome tail fins, and a rebuilt alternator. It faced a sticky throttle, fixed for $300. Redford called it Havana itself. flash hiding a breaking heart, and a March 1990 set diary, noting a scene where it overheated. Fixed for $200, serviced every 5,000 miles with oil changes $60, and brake adjustments $100. It needed a $1,000 transmission rebuild in 1990 due to slipping gears. Previously owned by a Cuban expatriate, it's now valued at $100,000. A for point for X appreciation, its 19-foot frame. A 1953 Motorama showpiece. Echoing Redford's nuanced despair in a crumbling world. 1966 Ford Mustang convertible, one of 72. 119 convertibles built at Ford San Jose plant. Assembly line from August 1965 to July 1966. This 2,800-pound icon, with 50/50 its weight distribution, 181-inch length, and 108-inch wheelbase, featured a 289 cubic inch V8 with a Holley 4-barrel carburetor, 9.3 to 1 compression, 101.6 millimeters bore, 70 to 0.9 mm stroke, and overhead valves, producing to 125 horsepower at 4,800 RPM and 305 pounds-ft of torque at 3,000 to 100 RPM, hitting 0 to 60 in 7.5 seconds, a quarter mile in 15.2 seconds at 90 miles per hour, 120 miles per hour, 0.75 lateral G, 135-foot braking distance, and 15 mpg. It's 3-speed automatic. Unibody chassis, coil spring front suspension, leaf spring rear suspension, front disc brakes, and 14-inch styled steel wheels cruise Napa's Vineyards with Dylan blaring. Shauna sketching in the back. Restored in 1975 for $3,500 over for months by Napa Valley Classics. With a dual exhaust, red convertible top, and Goodyear Polyglass tires. It faced a faulty alternator during a 1970 for family drive with Lola and the kids. Fixed for $400, Redford called it my heart's rhythm. Miles into memory in a July 1976 journal, recalling a 1975 picnic stalled by a loose fuel line. Fixed for $150, serviced every 4,000 miles with oil changes $50 and carburetor tuning $100. It needed a $1,000 to $100 carburetor rebuild in 1976, previously owned by a Napa vintner. It's now worth $45,000, a 1960 for pony car legend. A nostalgic bomb after James's 2020 loss to liver cancer. 1985 Mercedes-Benz 500 SEL, one of 9,976 W1-6 SELs built in Stuttgart. Assembly line 5, from January to December 1985. This 3,800-pound sedan, with 51/49 weight distribution, 202-inch length, and 121-inch wheelbase, featured a 5.0-liter V8 with Bosch Getronic fuel injection, 8.8 to 1 compression, 96.5 millimeters bore, 85 millimeter stroke, and single overhead cams, producing 184 horsepower at 4,500 RPM and 280 pounds-ft of torque at 2,800 RPM, hitting 0 to 60 in 8 seconds, a quarter mile in 16 seconds at 85 miles per hour, 130 miles per hour, 0.73 lateral G, 140-foot braking distance, and 14 mpg. It's for speed automatic, double wishbone front suspension, semi-trailing arm rear suspension with air leveling, anti-lock brakes, and 15-inch alloy wheels glided along the bay. Restored in 1990 for $6,000 over 5 months by Bay Area Mercedes. With new air suspension, leather interior, and Michelin TRX tires, it faced a loose suspension bushing in 1991. Fixed for $500, Redford drove it after James's 2020 death. Waves whispering solace, as he shared in a June 2021 interview, "This car held my silence. A refuge from pain." Serviced every 5,000 miles with oil changes $80 and fuel system cleaning $150. It needed a $1,500 fuel pump replacement in 1991. Previously owned by a San Francisco tech executive, it's now worth $25,000, a W126 luxury benchmark. Redford Stately Retreat, 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air convertible, one of 47. 560 to built at GM's Los Angeles plant. Assembly line 3, from September 1956 to August 1957. This 3,300-pound classic, with 50 to 48 weight distribution, 194-inch length, and 115-inch wheelbase, featured a 283 V8 with a Rochester 4-barrel carburetor, 9.5 to 1 compression, 95.2 mm bore, 76.2 mm stroke, and overhead valves, producing the 120 horsepower at 4,800 RPM and 300 pounds-ft of torque at 3,000 RPM, hitting 0 to 60 in 8.5 seconds, a quarter mile in 16 seconds at 87 miles per hour, 115 miles per hour, 0.7 lateral G, 145-foot braking distance, and 13 mpg. It's 3-speed manual, solid axle with leaf springs, and 11-inch drum brakes. Cruised Santa Monica with sketches spilling from the seat. Restored in 1960 for $2,500 over 3 months by Santa Monica Classics. With a new white convertible top, chrome trim, and Firestone Deluxe tires. It faced a radiator leak during a 1959 beach drive with friends. Fixed for $700, Redford called it my first love. Innocent roads before life's scars, in a May 1965 reflection. Serviced every 4,000 miles with oil changes $40 and brake adjustments $80. It needed a $700 radiator repair in 1961, previously owned by a UCLA professor. It's now worth $50,000, $70,000. A 1957 Motor Trend Car of the Year, 1963 Jaguar E-Type Roadster, one of 7. 827 Series 1 Roadsters built at Coventry. Assembly Line 1, from March 1961 to October 1964. This 2,900-pound icon, with 50/50 its weight distribution, 175-inch length, and 96-inch wheelbase. Featured a 3.8-liter inline-6 with 3-SU HD8 carburetors, 9.1 to 1 compression, 87 mm bore, 106 mm stroke, and dual overhead cams. Producing the 165 horsepower at 5,500 RPM and 260 pounds-ft of torque at 4,000 RPM. Hitting 0 to 60 in 6.9 seconds. A quarter mile in 15 seconds at 92 miles per hour. 150 miles per hour, 0.85 lateral G, 120-foot braking distance, and 16 mpg. It's 4-speed manual. Monocoque chassis, double wishbone front suspension, independent rear suspension, and 4-wheel disc brakes with 15-inch wire wheels. Cruised Napa with Sybil. Redford humming Dylan's Forever Young, restored in 1983 for $7. 0 over 6 months by Napa Valley Jaguar. With new leather, rebuilt carburetors, and Dunlop SB Sport tires. It faced a loose spark plug during a 1983 Vineyard Drive. Fixed for $200, Redford called it elegance. A love savored in a September 1980 for Journal. Serviced every 3,000 miles with oil changes $60 and carburetor sync $150. It needed a $1,000 carburetor rebuild in 1984, previously owned by a Napa vintner. It's now worth $150,000. A 1961 Geneva Showstar 1967 Shelby GT500, one of 2,048 built at Shelby's Los Angeles facility. Assembly lined from January to August 1967. This 3,400-pound beast, with 53/47 weight distribution, 187-inch length, and 108-inch wheelbase. Featured a 428 cubic inch V8 with dual Holley 4-barrel carburetors, 8.0 to 1 compression, 104.7 mm bore, 99.3 mm stroke, and overhead valves. Producing 355 horsepower at 5,400 RPM and 420 pounds-ft of torque at 3,000 to 100 RPM. Hitting 0 to 60 in 6 seconds, a quarter mile in 14.5 seconds at 98 miles per hour. 130 miles per hour, 0.8 lateral G, 130-foot braking distance, and 10 mpg. It's 4-speed manual. Live axle with leaf springs, front disc brakes, and 15-inch Krager wheels tore through Utah's deserts, echoing his Sundance Kid spirit. Restored in 1969 for $3,500 over 5 months by California Classics, with a new clutch, Hurst shifter, and Goodyear Eagle tires. It faced a faulty fuel pump. Fixed for $400, Redford called it thunder. Riding the outlaw's edge in a June 1970 interview, recalling a 1969 desert race with Newman where a loose belt cost him $100 to fix. Serviced every 4,000 miles with oil changes $50 and carburetor tuning $120. It needed a $1,500 transmission rebuild in 1970, previously owned by a Hollywood stuntman. It's now worth $150,000 to $100,000. A 1967 muscle car legend, 1965 Alfa Romeo Spider, one of 6,524 Duettos built in Milan. Assembly Line 1, from March 1965 to December 1966. This 2,300-pound roadster, with 50/50 its weight distribution, 165-inch length and 88-inch wheelbase, featured a 1.6-liter inline-4 with dual Weber 40 DCOE carburetors, 9.0 to 1 compression, 78mm bore, 82mm stroke, and dual overhead cams, producing 109 horsepower at 6,000 RPM and 100 foot-pounds-ft of torque at 3,000 to 100 RPM, hitting 0 to 60 in 10 seconds, a quarter mile in 17.5 seconds at 75 miles per hour, 110 miles per hour, 0.78 lateral G, 130-foot braking distance, and 25 mpg. Its 5-speed manual, double wishbone front suspension, live axle rear suspension, 4-wheel disc brakes, and 15-inch alloy wheels cruise Napa with Sybil under starlit vines. Restored in 1984 for $4,500 over 5 months by Napa Alfa, with a Pininfarina body repaint code AR501. New leather and Pirelli P for tires, it faced a sticky clutch. Fixed for $300, Redford called it my romantic heart. Starlit Vines my haven in a July 1985 interview. Serviced every 3,000 miles with oil changes $50 and valve adjustments $100. It needed a $800 carburetor rebuild in 1985, previously owned by a San Francisco artist. It's now worth $50,000, $70,000. A 1966 Pininfarina design icon, Redford's cars were his souls versus Porsches for rebellion, Chevys for youth, Shelbys for thunder, Alfas for love. Each carried a story: Newman's pranks, Gatsby's tragedy, family drives, ranch labor. He called them roads to his soul, what he chased, what he loved. In 2025, at 89, his wheels remain his legacy's tracks freedom's pulse, unbound.
Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more dives into Hollywood's hidden history.